Want to Know Wednesday, every single Wednesday, 4:30 p.m. Central Time. We're dropping things that you want to know that I've seen in the comments. People ask me about repeatedly, almost like a FAQ. Please subscribe to my YouTube page, like the video, leave a comment. Let us know what you want to learn. We'll maybe make the video next week on your question of Want to Know Wednesday. If you don't know who I am, I'm Justin Spaulding, owner, operator of 1,354 apartment units in the Midwest. We have about 200 investors. And today we're talking about how we get money from investors, how we find investors, how we land investors. We have about 200 investors right now that are involved in our projects. We've gone full cycle on 11 different deals, meaning we've bought them, we've raised money for them, we've successfully sold them, we beat our projections on them, and we currently own and operate 1,354 units. We just closed a deal about a week ago, 372 units. The very next morning, because the whole month prior to that, I was negotiating the deal, so the very next morning we tied up another 460 units. About 2 days after that, we're essentially 95% fully funded on the 460 unit deal. We're raising 15 million bucks. People are like, how are you raising money so fast? And so here's what you have to do, right? The first lesson is that I started getting a list and letting people know what I was doing, getting a list and letting people know that we were, successful in these projects and that we'd be taking on investors, right? So I started doing that way before I ever needed money. I started with a 4 unit. It was me and my family. We refinanced that. We bought another 4 unit. We didn't use any investor money in those deals. But those deals, I promoted them. I told people about them. I shared them on Instagram. I was not bashful. I wasn't scared to tell people what was going on. And through being transparent, showing the ups, the downs, the goods, the bads, I started to have other people who reached out to me. And a lot of them initially already knew me in real life. Like they watched me play in high school sports, watched me play in college sports, knew me growing up, right? But then professionally, I was sharing what I was doing professionally online, so they got to see that side of me. So then when I'd see them in person, like, hey, I want to invest in your next deal. Let me know when it's coming up. I want to be involved in your next deal. Let me know when it's coming up. I'd start to get that. And I just started to write these people down. I got an Excel spreadsheet and I kept a list. Anytime that I would hear someone that they're interested, I wouldn't say, oh, we don't have anything right now, talk to you later. It's not like I'd just forget about it. I'd just say, hey, well, right now we don't have anything, right, coming up. But I'm sure we will soon, and I will have you on a list, and I will let you know. You gotta keep a list, because if you rely on your mind to remember, you're gonna forget people. You're gonna forget things. Don't allow your memory to be the reason that you're not gonna get investors. I immediately would start the list. I would just add to it, right? And what would happen is I would continue to add to that list. 6 months later, when we found a deal, which was a storage unit deal, we had an investor that we could pull on and share it with and pull on, and they helped us get the project done on a 300-unit storage facility. We turned $60,000 of investor equity into $1 million in about 36 months on that deal, right? Wouldn't have happened if I would have waited until the very last minute after I got the deal under contract to try to go out and hustle then at that point to raise money. I'm always raising money. I'm always finding leads. I'm always adding the leads to be able to stay in touch with them through the whole process. Anytime that you wait to get a deal under contract, to start going through the due diligence, and then realize, oh wait, I'm gonna be $1 million short. Oh, I'm gonna be $500,000 short. I'm gonna be $10 million short. It's never good to be short late in the process. You'd rather oversubscribe early and not have to worry about the raise. When you're in that position, it's a lot better of a position to be in. But the only way you can be in that position is if you're going to start, going out and getting leads of people who want to invest well ahead of time. The other thing is always be transparent and be able to have a business plan that shows how you're going to have success. It's rare where we get investors that just come in blindly, that don't look at any business plan, that don't look at what the rent comps are, that don't look at the overall returns. Does it happen sometimes? Yes. But when you're first starting, you don't have a track record to rely on. So you need to make sure that you have the business plan, that you're showing that business plan kind of step by step. You're showing where it's currently at day one and what the performance is going to be. Is it going to be cash flow negative? Is it going to be cash flow positive? If it's cash flow negative, how do we get it to cash flow positive? If it's cash flow positive, how do we build that and create more cash flow? And what are your actual steps in your business plan? You can't just say, look, we're going to raise the rents $300 a month. You can't just say that, right? That can be your thesis, but then you need the steps. And if you have the steps and the bulletproof evidence on how you're going to do that and why you're going to be able to do that with this property, you will find people that will invest with you, right? So have a list, have a plan, right? Get that plan on paper. You don't have to overdo it with a business plan, right? You don't have to have 600 paragraphs and 15,000 words. Like, our slide decks are usually 5 to 15 page slide decks. They have pictures, they have, it's not like an abundance, just paragraphs upon paragraphs upon paragraphs. Of those slides, one slide has maybe 3 or 4 paragraphs, just kind of like the background of the background of the deal, the background of the location, why we think it's a great deal, why we're excited to put our own money into it. So just make sure you have a plan, share that plan, get it on paper, share that plan with other investors. You can't promise them anything, and I say that in everything that we send out. I don't promise them anything, but I say, hey, here's what we're very confident in, right? And then I just go through the list of what we're going to do, how we're going to go about it, and it's quick to the punch. It doesn't take an investor 6 days to look at it. It takes them maybe 5, 10, 15 minutes, if that, to look at that prospectus or that quick overview to see if they're going to be interested or not. So what I don't do in a business plan, I almost have kind of 2 business plans, right? I have like what I think is actually going to happen, right? Which is usually way better than what the investors see. And then I send out something that's a little bit more conservative than what I'm thinking could actually go right? Because as the entrepreneur, as the the lead person on the investment, I'm always thinking, hey, we can bat 1,000%, right? And I always look at a project, if we do bat 1,000%, this is what it's going to look like. I always go to that situation and play the what if game. It's fun, right? And a lot of times we've actually been able to execute and hit that. But a lot of times things also do go wrong, and you might only bat 300, which batting 300 in the MLB, you're still going to the Hall of Fame, right? You might only bat 300, right? And 300 to 500 in this real estate game. And so by somewhat being a little bit more conservative in your projections and then going on and crushing those projections, for us, that has done wonders because, let me put it this way, you would always rather like kind of under promise a little bit and then over deliver versus over promise and then under deliver. It gets a lot better feedback, let's put it that way. But at the same time, you don't want to sell yourself too short to make it seem like not a good investment, right? So you kind of have to walk that line, but that's kind of been my mindset behind that is, hey, let's find a way that we can absolutely crush these numbers. Let's be a little bit more conservative with what we're sending to investors. Like with what I send to investors, obviously nothing is guaranteed, but I want it to be as bulletproof, like sure thing as possible. And I want to make sure that we can perform and hit those. It's a big deal when you're taking on millions of dollars from investors, right? There's syndicators out there that aren't operating things. They're just throwing money, everywhere, whatever. They're not, and I think some of them are going to get lucky. I think some of them are going to come down hard and not do well, right? Being a little bit more conservative on the projections, having things down operationally and paying attention to every single detail is going to put you miles and miles and miles ahead of the other guy, right? Consistency, you always just have to be consistent. This is the same thing that I talked about a couple weeks ago or a couple episodes ago about, it was about how do we find deals, right? How we're actually finding the properties, the businesses that we're investing in. It's the same thing with investors. You got to be patient. You got to be consistent. You have to build relationships, just like I'm building relationships with brokers, sellers, managers, so I can buy their building later. I'm also building a lot of relationships, basically to anyone that will listen about the investing side, right? Recognizing that, hey, yes, we're filling up our investments really fast. We have a $15 million, raise right now that we're doing that we're 95% subscribed after a few days, right? The last $12 million that we raised 2 months ago, we oversubscribed and had by about $3 or $4 million, right? So some people are like, why are you still looking for investors? You're raising money. Because I know there's more coming down the pipeline, and I know that I never want to be in a position where I'm short and now I'm scrambling. I would rather be ahead of it where these keep oversubscribing, because we're going to continue to find great deals, especially as if interest rates keep changing and going up. You're going to have people that are going to freak out, want out because interest rates are rising. No one's going to want my building, right? We've already been able to capitalize on some of those, situations right there. But there's always an excuse. And to the general population, is always going to have an excuse on why I need to get out of this deal, why I shouldn't do this deal, whatever. When you're investing for the long term, you're always going to be able to find deals. Therefore, you always want to stay ahead of things from an equity standpoint and being able to know where you're going to be able to pull cash from. Stay ahead of it. Don't wait. Like always say yes, bring them on. It's way better to oversubscribe by $5 million than to be short by $5 million and now you're only 15 days to closing, right? Because a lot of times there's a lot of hard costs. The last deal we closed, we had $1 million of hard costs that we would have been out of if we didn't close the deal, right? So I was not going to let being short on equity, I wasn't going to allow that to be an excuse. That's why we filled up so fast. The next thing that you got to realize is that not everyone that you get on the list is going to invest right away, but they're going to sit back and they're going to watch. So as my list grew from 5 people to 20 people, from 20 people to 100 people, from 100 people to 500 plus people, right? It wasn't like every single person was investing along the way, but they sit back and they watch. And so that's why you need to continue to post stuff. You need to continue to send updates. I send updates to our investor list, but I'll also send updates on our current projects to people that looked at the investment and passed on it. Why do I do that? Because I want them to be like, oh crap, I missed out on that one. And now I want them thinking, hey, I got to get in. I want them to feel a sense of urgency. I want them to be excited for the next deal that we launch so that they can claim their spot in the deal. So I never stop contacting those people and showing our, directly and indirectly, never stop reaching out to those people so that they can see our track record and they eventually want to become involved because they see that they missed an awesome, awesome deal. I can't tell how many times that has happened. The crazy thing about adding investors, right, is as you start to get some great deals and you start to perform well for investors, you're going to start to get other referrals, right? Be professional when it comes to responding to those referrals and reaching out to those referrals, right? Someone gives you a referral. Let's think of it this way. If someone gave you a referral and you waited 6 weeks to contact that person, like what does that say about you, right? So anytime anyone gets us a referral, we immediately reach out to at least make the connection. So now the ball is in their court. I want to get the ball out of my court as much as possible into other people's courts so they're not waiting on me. I want people to see that I'm on top of things, right? If it takes me 6 weeks to get back to an investor, what is that person who's never invested with us yet, what are they going to think about the rest of our entire operation? I know if someone referred me to somebody and I was looking to invest in a deal and that person that was operating the deal or looking for investment, it took 6 weeks to get back to me, I'd be like, I'm done. I would already write the person off just because of the turnaround to get, a potential investor in the door took so long. What else are they going to take a long time to do in that actual operation or investment? I really believe that, something that obviously matters more than anything is your track record as far as like actually being able to perform on the deals that you get investors in on, right? So the reason that we've been able to have repeat investors, that we've had people invest with us 5, 6, 10, 12, 15 times, is because we're performing and we're executing. Always be recruiting, always be finding deals, always be looking for leads when it comes to investors. Always, always, always. Never, ever stop, never settle. I don't know what more I can say to drive that point home, but never, ever, ever stop getting leads, never stop following up, never stop sharing your story, because ultimately that is what's going to get you a lot of damn investors.